Well, good evening, everybody. This is Chris Hughes. I'm excited that you're all here tonight. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. This is webinar number 2 of 4. The webinar begins right now, and all 4 of these webinars will be archived and available for playback at cshughes.com/webinar. Let me start tonight by asking you a question. What if the keys to your dream life were underneath the feet of your 100th personal recruit? How long are you going to let it take you to get to that 100th person? Let me ask it again. What if the keys to your dream life were under the feet of your 100th personal recruit? How long are you going to let it take you to get to that 100th person? Now, for some of you, it might be 61 recruits, and that's all you need to create a 6-figure income, at least to get a 6-figure income going in your life. That's a random number, by the way. You know, for some of you, it might be 39 recruits. For some of you, it might be 133 recruits. These are random numbers, but I'm asking you the question. If it were 100 personal recruits, let's just say that's the magic number. If you had to have 100 personal recruits, and under the foot of that 100th personal recruit, once you got them in the business, that the keys to your dream life were underneath the feet of that 100th personal recruit. Again, how long are you going to let it take you to get to that 100th person? One of my good friends, David Stecky, who's no longer with us, he passed away several years ago. He's 42 years old, very, very successful, Platinum Plus in Legal Shield. He's got a great story. Someone in his upline told him when they recruited him, he was one of these guys that sold seafood and steak door to door, right? He had the truck with the big box freezer in the back, and he was out hustling, and he spent a lot of money to start that company. It was a franchise, and he had to have the truck and the refrigerator, and he had to go out and hustle and find customers, and then he'd go back and revisit those people every 4 to 6 weeks. Well, he was making $100,000 a year, but he was always working, and if he took a day off, well, he didn't make $100,000 a year. I mean, he had to work, he had to bust it all the time. And so when he saw Legal Shield, he was very, very excited about it. Well, somebody in his upline, I believe it was either Craig Huntner or his dad or one of their other upline ring earners, but they said that the key to success for him was to recruit 100 people, that he could have the dream life with 100 people if he'd go out and recruit 100 people. Well, he misunderstood what was being said. He thought that what was being said was that if, big fat if, he would go out and recruit 100 people in his first year, that he could have his dream life. And, I think a lot of us would be like, what? Are you crazy? Are you kidding me? I can't do that. If that's what it takes, I'm not going to do this business. Well, he didn't know, and he didn't know any better. He didn't know what he didn't know. He didn't know that was something that was not normal. He didn't know that was something that people didn't do on a regular basis. So what did he do? He went out and he did it. And he recruited over 100 people. I think he averaged 8 to 10 people every month for his first year. And let's look at what happened. His first year, he made $100,000. And if my memory serves me correct, the second year he made $200. His third year he made $300. His fourth year he made $400. And unfortunately, I believe it was about a year later that he passed away from cancer. But I share that story with you to say this, that for him, it was 100. It was probably significantly less than 100. I mean, he may have had the foundations for $100,000 a year income with his first 10 recruits. We don't know. My brother Jeff had the foundation, and his wife Cindy, they had the foundations for a 6-figure income. With their first PBR. They recruited David Hughes and his wife Sherry, and Mike Hughes and his wife Sherry, and Chris Hughes, and I was single at the time. And they recruited the 3 of us front line to them. And, they had the foundations of a 6-figure income day one. Actually, it wasn't even day one. They weren't even in the business yet. So let me ask you again, if the number's 100, and it may be more and it may be less. And by the way, I'm going to be sharing with you in this webinar how to make it less. There are things that you can do to make it less But most people listening to this call tonight are on the path to making it more. In other words, most people on the line here tonight are on the path to have to recruit more than you would normally have to recruit because of the way you're doing it. And we'll talk about that. So again, one more time. What if keys to your dream life were underneath the feet of your 100th personal recruit? How long are you going to let it take you to get to that 100th person? Now, it's impossible to say how many associates you're going to need to recruit in order to earn a six-figure income to get those six-figure ring and legal shield. There's just way too many variables. As I already said, some of you will need less, some of you are going to need more, but let's just say it's 100 recruits. And I ask you the question again, how long are you going to let it take you to get to that 100th person? So let's do some math. I asked you all to come to the webinar this evening with some homework. I gave you a homework assignment. I asked you to come with some numbers, so let's run through the numbers. How many months have you been in Legal Shield? Write down that number because we're going to do some math. How many months have you been in Legal Shield? Number two, how many people have you recruited thus far? And by the way, recruits that you begged to get into business because you needed 2 Performance Club points, they don't count. It's people who saw the opportunity that you didn't have to manipulate or twist their arms to get them in the business. They wanted to build a business. So you may need to go back and relook at those numbers. And I know we've all been there. We got to have a Performance Club. How many people have you recruited thus far? Okay. So now let's look at the math. Your number of recruits divided by your number of months that you've been in the business equals your average recruits per month. Okay. So let's just keep it real simple. You've recruited, 10 people. You've been in the business 10 months. You're averaging 1 recruit a month. Okay. If those are your numbers. Let me give you an example. This is an example of one of the associates on our team. These are real numbers. She's been in the business she's recruited 85 people since she's been in the business. She's been in the business for 120 months. When you do the math on that, it comes down to 0.70 recruits a month. So not even 1 recruit a month for the last 10 years. Okay, so that's just an example of somebody on our team. Last week when we actually did this webinar live, I'm re-recording it right now, so there'd be no Q&A or anything tonight. But when we were doing this, I'm re-recording it because there were some technical issues, unfortunately. But when we were doing this, in one of the Q&As, one of our leaders chimed in, and she was just so disgusted because her average was 0.80, and she said something like, I thought I've been doing everything right, and I'm looking at these numbers, and it's like, no wonder. She's not averaged even 1 recruit a month for the 5 or 6 years that she's been in the business. So let's keep looking. If in this example, this gal on the team, she had 85 recruits. So what we want to do is figure out how many more she needs. Let's say the magic number is 100. So magic number is 100. That's how many she needs to get on the path to a 6-figure income, let's just say. Could be more, could be less. I'm going to teach you how to make it less today. Minus her total recruits, which is 85 total recruits since she's been in the business. That's going to give her how many more she needs. So 100 recruits needed minus 85 already done equals 15 more to go. And notice there's an asterisk there because it may be more than that, and we'll talk about why that is. So how many more you need divided by your average recruits per month is what it could take you to get to or on the track for the 6-figure ring. Okay? So in this example, this associate has 15 more recruits to go. Well, she averages 0.70 recruits a month. So the math for her is she, really is 22 months away from being on the path to a 6-figure ring. So already been in the business 10 years. This would put her in another 2 years before she has the foundation for 6-figure income. But that's if the number's 100. And because the average recruits are so low, 0.70, she's probably going to need even more than 100 and probably even considerably more unless she does something that I'm going to tell you about in this webinar. I hope I'm creating a little suspense. So here's my numbers. I've been in the business for 189 months. I've had 240, I recruited somebody last week, so 244 recruits, but let's just call it 243. Do the math on that, it's 1.28 recruits per month. Now, keep in mind, I have been retired for several years in Legal Shield. When I got married, we took a year off. I built other businesses and wasn't building Legal Shield for a period of time. Then back in 2010, I retired for 3 years completely and wasn't recruiting or going to meetings or doing anything. I was writing books and creating a seminar company. So those numbers are pretty skewed. My average recruit would be considerably higher if you're looking at the time when I'm actually building my business, in the Performance Club, building, growing, leading, serving, attending, showing up, doing all of those things. All right, so let's just say, for example, I've been in the business for 2 years. Just to make these numbers more believable for some of you that are brand new in the business or newer in the business. And I've only recruited, let's say, 15 people. I need to recruit another 85 to reach 100, right? 15 plus 85 is 100. Now, 85 more people to go, divided by my average is 1.28 recruits per month, equals 66 months or 5.2 years in order for me to get to 100 recruits and hopefully the ring. So it's important for you to know that, the bare minimum, especially if you've been in the business for 5, 10, 15 years, the bare minimum is, because you've let it take you so long to get those recruits, it's probably going to take you more than 100 recruits. It may be less. As Art Williams always says, I just watched an Art Williams training today. It was riveting, full 1-hour training. Love him. You got to check him out on YouTube. One of the most successful network marketing CEOs of all times, direct selling CEOs. But he says, you're one recruit away from an explosion. So don't be overwhelmed by these numbers. It could all change today, literally today. It could all change. But we also need to discipline our expectations and know that, and educate our expectations and know that it's going to be around 100 and maybe even more for some of you. But there is a way to shave some of that time off, some of those recruits off. Here's the bad news. If you're recruiting one a month or less than one a month, the odds are you're not going to be able to create enough momentum and energy to reach the six-figure ring and perhaps not even executive director. This is an energy business. It's an excitement business. It's a momentum business. And energy begets energy, and momentum begets momentum, and synergy begets synergy, and excitement begets excitement. And so we're recruiting half of a person a month. What does that even look like? Recruiting 3/4 of a person per month. How can you create long-term sustained energy, excitement, enthusiasm, synergy, duplication, and success and all the rest when you're not even bringing in a human a month? You're not even bringing in a person a month. Now, keep in mind, this is a general rule. There's always exceptions to the rule. Most of us are going to fall into the general rule, or we're not going to fall into the exception. And again, don't be discouraged by this. Be liberated by it. William E. Bailey, one of my mentors, one of the first founders of one of the first network marketing companies, said this: you might as well start with the truth because you're going to wind up with it. I love that. You might as well start with the truth because you're going to wind up with it. And here's the truth. The truth is that you've got to recruit, count on about 100 people. And again, the question is, how long are you going to let it take you? And here's the reality, y'all. Slow growth in this business, it'll starve you to death. They say that slow and steady wins the race. And here we've got the example of the tortoise and the hare. We read these stories to our kids. And in some areas of life, of course, this is relevant, it matters, it's true. But in our business, particularly in our business, it is absolutely not true. Slow and steady will kill you. Slow growth will starve you to death. This is a velocity business, a momentum business. Success in our business, getting to executive director, keeping executive director, getting to the six-figure ring, keeping the six-figure ring, getting the platinum, keeping it so you can get your platinum jacket and the platinum perks in the platinum world, but it requires velocity. So if you want to succeed, you want to get to the next level, you want to get to executive, keep it, get to the ring, keep it, get to platinum, keep it, you got to go full throttle, and you got to get off the runway. And going full throttle, it may take you a year or two at full throttle. And some people go, oh, don't say this. I don't want to hear this. Look, y'all, please hear what I'm saying. You you don't have to do any of this stuff to make money in Legal Shield. This is success is voluntary. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You don't need any velocity. You don't need any momentum. You don't need any of that stuff. You go out and sell a membership a month, sell a membership a week, enroll some people. You make money in Legal Shield. What this audience is, and what I understand this audience to be, I invited all of you to participate in an advanced recruiting strategy webinar, 4-part webinar. So this is for people that want to go big. They want to go exec. They want to get to the six-figure ring. They want to become millionaires. So again, all of those things are voluntary, and everything that I'm talking about is voluntary. But you've got to put the pedal to the metal and go full throttle, and you've got to get off the runway. This is a very weird law of recruiting. It's a very weird law of our business, and you've got to understand this law. The more people you start in a short period of time, the more successful those people become. And thus, the more successful you become. Remember earlier when I was talking about how I could help you shortcut the number of recruits you're going to need to get to a six-figure income in Legal Shield? Well, this is it. If you'll recruit large numbers of people in short periods of time, you're compressing time frames. And if you'll do that, then the people that you're bringing on board, because it's an energy, synergy, momentum, excitement business, and you've got a lot of excitement going on in your business, a lot of momentum going on in your business, your people are going to feel that. They're going to be infected by that. They're going to be affected and affected by that, right? And so they're going to go out and do more because of the energy, the vibe in which they were hatched, in which they were born, because the vibe is so good. They're going to go out there and they're going to become more successful in a faster period of time. And you're going to become more successful as well. When I came into the business, the vibe of the business, and there's ebb and flow. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. The tide comes in really far. The tide goes out really far. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. The tide barely comes in, the tide barely goes out. The tide comes way in, the tide goes way out. There's seasons in our business. And where was I going with that? Oh, so I just got a text and lost my train of thought. ADD kicking in. Yes, okay, so when my brothers and I and their wives came into the business, we were hatched into an environment of success. It seemed like everybody was getting their six-figure ring their first year, maybe their second year in the business. So that's just what we assumed. We got kind of sucked into that positive vortex, and that was our goal. We all wanted to make six figures, and my brother Jeff made six figures. Actually, my other brother, older brother, made six figures his first year. My other brother, Jeff, made six figures his second year. I made six figures my third year, and my brother David earned six figures in his fourth year. So, that was in our own family. We're popping ring earners in our own family every single year. But it was because we're all recruiting big numbers of people. We're all excited. There's momentum. There's synergy. The company's in momentum. People are making money hand over fist. And by the way, we're going to see that environment return in a big way as we get to and go through the International Convention 2015 in Las Vegas. It's going to be amazing, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. But so some of you have been hatched or born in an environment where people weren't, thriving at that level. And so if the company's not in momentum, it becomes an even greater responsibility for you to create momentum, to go out and recruit large numbers of people in very, very short periods of time. And as you do that, the more successful those people are going to become more successful, and you're going to become more successful as a result. So again, looking at my numbers, 189 months, 243 recruits, 1.28 recruits per month. Now what's not reflected in these numbers is the years I retired, was working on other things, which I've already indicated. But what's also not represented here are the spurts of recruiting that I did, where I recruited several associates in a very short period of time. There's been many weeks in my business where I've recruited 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in a week, right? And there's been months where I've recruited 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14 people in a month. Well, you string a few weeks like that together or a few months like that together, you'll have a bunch of momentum. And then you do that again and again and again, and you do that for a year, 2 years, 2.5 years. You know, why would you not be at your six-figure ring? Why could you not earn a six-figure income in Legal Shield if you're, recruiting 2 to 3 people a week, and you do that for a sustained period of time for a year or two? Now, you can't do it always. You can't sustain that pace. We're going to talk about that right now. But we call these spurts 90-day runs. Well, before we discuss the 90-day runs, I want you to notate this resource. I want you to go to Google and just Google Recruit 20 webinar. And you'll see that the very first link there or hit is my team website, teamrenew.com, Recruit 20 webinar series. It's 4 webinars over 6 hours, probably closer to 7 hours of training on how to recruit 20-plus people in a month. Now, that may be too big a number for most of us, even myself included, so let's just change that number. 6, 7 hours of training on how to recruit 5 people a month consistently every month, on how to recruit 10 people a month, 20 people a month, every month. Okay, so make sure that you have that in your notes, Recruit 20 webinar series. Now, let's talk about 90-day runs. This is my opinion. If your 90-day run doesn't include massive recruiting, it's not a 90-day run. It's just a regular month. It's a run-of-the-mill month. If you recruit 0.5 people a month and you recruit 0.5 people a month during your run, that's not a run. You're just doing your regular business. This is how you know you're on a run, because your recruiting numbers are 3, 4, 5, 6 times what they are when you're not running. So let's take a look here. In January, you weren't running. You weren't on a run. You had 4 or 5 recruits in January. You began your run at the end of January, the beginning of February, and look what happened. In February, you recruit, 6.5, 7 in March, 10 in April. Well, you can't sustain this, right? It's hard. It's a lot of work. It's sacrifice. It's time away from the family. And, you've got to have wisdom and prudence in all things, moderation in all things, right? So then you exhale. You take a deep breath, and maybe you fall back down to 3 recruits because you had some stuff in your pipeline. And then in June, you did 2 recruits. Well, now you've rested. You worked with all of these people. You kind of shook them out a little bit to see who was in, who was out, who wanted to run, who was going to quit, who was going to be a superstar, who was going to be a dud, who was going to be a stud. So you took a little reprieve here. You took a deep breath. You took a 2-day weekend, 3-day weekend with the family and went and did something fun to celebrate, right, because you had a great 90-day run. And then you started to run again. And now you're 7 recruits or 6 recruits, 7 recruits, 8 recruits. And then you're just going to take, let's say in this example, you're going to take a 30-day break. You're working with all these people. You're continuing to build your organization. You only recruited, let's say, 2 people that month. You're not running, but you do have kind of what is this? What's it called? Not layover, but rollover. There we go. You've got rollover activity that allowed you to recruit 2 people that month. Anyway, even though you weren't running, and then you start running again, and here you are. You're at 6 recruits, and then 9 recruits, and then 11 recruits, and those are monthly recruits. So that's what a run looks like. And again, you can't do it every day, all day for years straight. You can do 30, 60, 90-day runs. 90-day runs are recommended because you can create so much momentum in 90 days. Here's the goal of your 90-day run, massive action. Recruiting is the name of the game. That's what you're hyper-focused on. You're laser-focused on everywhere you go, everything you do. You're like a heat-seeking missile. Don't be weird. Don't weird people out. Don't freak them out. Don't harm your relationships because you're being such a weirdo, right? You don't have to be weird to be a heat-seeking missile. You need to prep the family, set a reward, get the family together, say, hey, look, I'm going to be doing these 90-day runs for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 2.5 years. I'm going to be, tied up for 90 days at a time, and I may be missing stuff. But look, if y'all let me do this, Here's what we're going to do. At the end of my 90-day run, we're going to celebrate. We're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to go to the zoo. We're going to go camping. We're going to go fishing. We're going to go, do an all-day movie marathon, whatever. Set something fun for the kids, or if you don't have kids, plan a day with your significant other, your spouse, wife, husband, whatever it is, but get buy-in. Prep the family, set a reward, and get buy-in. It's very, very important that you have your family support and that you're not harming those relationships in pursuit of what you want financially. If you don't recruit 3 to 4 times what you normally recruit each month, it's not really a run. We covered that. You can't do it forever. That's why we do 90-day runs. But most of us need to run, and we need to run fast, and we need to run a lot for a while. I would say probably everyone on this line, with very little exception, if any exception at all, probably need to commit to a 2-year run. 90 days for 2 years, do 90-day runs with either 30 or 60-day breaks in between those runs, and you just have to commit to it for 2 to 3 years to get enough velocity, to get enough synergy, momentum, excitement, enthusiasm, energy, all that stuff, to create the environment for others to go out and to become successful so that you can become successful. So prospecting is your number one goal during that time. When you're on a 90-day run, it's typical to do 5 to 10 recruiting exposures a day, every day for 90 days. Now, keep in mind, I love and agree with and subscribe to the faith, family, finance philosophy within Legal Shield that, God comes first, your family comes second, and finances come third. And so you've got to, and I'm not talking about balance, because sometimes in life, we've got to throw our lives, not purposely, but we do. We throw our lives out of balance so that we can make up for a deficiency in one or more areas of our life, so that we can make up for neglect or laziness, you get my drift. But we've got to do that. So you don't harm relationships in doing that. So you've got to get buy-in. But you're get buy-in from the family. But first is God. Faith. If you're a religious person and you have a Sabbath day, and it's important for you to honor that Sabbath day, if your faith tells you to rest on that day, or to honor the Sabbath day, or to keep the Sabbath day holy, well, then you do that. Some of us have Sabbath on Saturday. Some of us have Sabbath on Sunday. Some of us don't have Sabbath. We don't look at it. It's not the Sabbath. It's Sunday for some people. It's just another day, right? And so, but I would say those of you that do honor the Sabbath, to continue doing that. I think that's important. So you're doing these exposures 5 to 10 plus, 5 minimum, 10 plus every day for 90 days, except for your Sabbath. The rest of you are doing them, all day, every day. Brandon Sandiego is one of the people that exploded from director to executive director and then to the six-figure ring. And he and his wife agreed that he would leave the house and he would not come back until he had 10 names and phone numbers every single day. That's what he had to do. He could not come back home unless he had 10 names and numbers. And so he would go out every day and go and get those numbers. And when he got them, he could come home and he'd call the 10 numbers from the day before, and then he'd have dinner with his family and do more follow-ups and help the team. And then the next day, he'd go out and get his 10 numbers, and he'd come back and do follow-ups on the 10 from the day before and work with the people and do follow-ups, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's what he did. And no wonder he got to the six-figure ring, right? I mean, he was willing to pay that price. He was willing to sacrifice. And you've got to have ways of getting 5 to 10 plus new exposures a day, every day for 90 days. That's your challenge. If somebody came up to you and said, look, I'll pay you $100,000 a year for the rest of your life, but I've got one little problem that you've got to figure out. You've got to figure out how to get 5 to 10 new names and numbers every single day, every day for the next 90 days. Right? You have to figure out how to do that. Could you figure out how to do it? Yeah. Well, then do it. If you can figure out how to do it, then do it. Well, again, the question is how. Well, let me give you a couple ideas. That's $1 million question. Our first webinar, we talked about Simon Sinek, who wrote the great book, Start With Why. So it's not how. It's not how are you going to go out and get 10 numbers a day. It's why. Why are you going to go out and get 10 numbers a day? Well, It's why are you going to expose 5 to 10 people a day for 90 days? Well, here's why. Because when the prize is clear, the price becomes easy. If you know why, if you've got your goals, if your family's relying on you, if you've got to make this happen or else, if you're sick and tired of people looking at you like you're subhuman, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and being a day late and $1 short, if you hate that job, hate your commute, hate your boss, hate the way life has been for you, want to get out of that house, get out of that car, get into a nicer, bigger, newer home, nicer, bigger, newer car, go on vacation, send missionaries around the world, send your kids to college, give your children benefits that other kids may not have. When the prize is clear, the price becomes easy. So it's not about how do I go get those exposures, it's not about how, it's why. Why do I go get those exposures? Because I've got kids to feed, because I love them, because I want to give them advantages in life. Because I want to take care of my wife. I want to travel the world. I want to get a new car. I want to build my dream home on the water. When the prize is clear, the price becomes easy. Why is the question. The how is not going to do you any good if the why doesn't move you deeply in the heart at an emotional place. All right. If you don't want it or need it really badly, why would you pay the price that a 90-day run requires and pay it over and over and over for a year, year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years? And the answer is you won't. And that's why your why, your reasons, the prize, that's why it's got to be crystal clear, and you've got to know what it is, and it's got to matter, and it's got to tug at the heartstrings. I love the fact that the word sacrifice comes from the Latin word, which means to make holy. To make holy. And that's what we do is we sacrifice some things in life. Or in other words, we make holy these things in our life. Right? We make holy this time. And we go out there and we don't take that time for granted. We don't make that sacrifice for granted. And we do something significant during that time. Now here's the good news. If you do this right, your business will explode and you'll get to ED at $100,000 a year at breakneck speed. I mean, y'all, if your numbers are 0.1 recruit a month, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, I mean, that's not going to get there. From where you are right now, no matter how long you've been in the business, until you're a six-figure ring earner, your average recruit better be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a month. Your average. Now, when you're not running, you might be recruiting 2 or 3. When you are running, you're going to be recruiting 6 to 10 or more. So you should be averaging for years, for at least a year, 2 years, 2.5 years. You've got to be averaging that many recruits, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 recruits a month. And I know I'm blowing some people out of the water, and I can't do that. That's fine, y'all. We're not talking about making money here. You can make money here with 0.01 recruits a month. You can make money. You can make good money here. There are people in the company that don't recruit at all. That are making $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, even making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and they don't recruit. So you don't have to do this. I'm just saying that if you want 6 figures a year in passive income, if you want to be able to live your life on your terms and stop living it on other people's terms, why not pay the price? Why not master recruiting? Why not figure this stuff out? Right? Get it figured out and then have a skill set for the rest of your life. Have a business for the rest of your life that'll pay you and sustain you. All right, so assuming you have the why figured out, it is important to discuss the how. So let's discuss it. Your warm market. You're going to talk to everybody you know. Everybody. I don't care if you talked to them before. You might have messed it up when you talked to them in the past. You're going to talk to everybody that you know. Everybody. You're going to ask all your warm market. Warm market, by the way, is people that you know and people who know you. And then you're going to ask them for referrals. You're going to go out and do cold market prospecting, cork boards, fish bowls, anywhere where people put their business cards. They're obviously trying to get something for free or improve their life, or maybe they're trying to drum up new business. That's why they're sharing their business cards or putting it on cork boards at the grocery store. Get those numbers. Call those people. Get their information off the internet. I've heard of some people that they just focus on, one type of career. Maybe somebody who's already got a skill set to be self-employed. like a real estate professional. They're able to go online on the internet and harvest these phone numbers for real estate professionals. They're super easy to find. You call them up. Their phone numbers are online. However you got to do it, whatever. There's job business fairs. Let me give you a tip on, there's advertisements online and paper. I've got limited experience with that, but if you know how to do that, do that. Pass out tools every day, everywhere you go. Hand out your tools, your DVDs, your CDs, your dual discs. Job fairs. I know some people have spent $2,000, $3,000 to get a booth, and then they got to get all that big, the big signage and the materials and the portable DVD players so they can play videos, and they've got the fishbowl and they're collecting phone numbers and all that. Well, I've been to those job fairs. I've invested. I've done those things myself. You know what I've found, especially with entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial fairs, job fairs. Those people, they all want to hand out their business cards. So I don't get a booth. I just attend these business fairs and walk around. All those people want to sell you something. So go and hear their pitch. Hey, thanks a lot for that. I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you. Can I get your card? Can I get your brochure? Can I get some materials? I'll be in touch. Then you call those people back. I was really impressed with you. You open to additional income? Are you open to, I'd like to offer you a passive equity position within my business. I know you're focused on your business, but I'd like to offer you a position within my business. It's going to help you generate significant income without interfering with anything that you're currently doing. Right? So you can call those people back. There's leads. The best lead source that I've found in my 15 years, we can buy leads, people that are looking for home-based businesses. You go to bestleadstore.com. The best lead that I've found there is Interviewed Phone Lead. This company that generates these leads for us, they've got to get 96 leads. I think it's 90-something leads before they get one person that answers the phone and goes through the interview. Are you really looking for a home business? Do you have money to get started? Are you ready to get going right now? Okay, somebody's going to call you. Right? Those leads, I've had interviewed leads in the past from different companies. They're absolute garbage. These leads are the absolute best that I've had. Matter of fact, I was working with C.A. Murph, the network vice president in Nevada. I was staying with him in his home, and he and I were sharing notes. And I said, look, let me do some of these calls. And I started calling these people, and in 30 minutes, oh, man, I can't remember. I'm not sure if I'm going to tell you. I thought I had it in memory now. I don't know if it's 8 or 12. I think it was 8. I'm pretty sure it was 8. But in 30 minutes, it was a Friday night. We had a few minutes, and I just started making calls to these leads that I had purchased. They were coming in. I had them in my email box. And in 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, I did 8 rock-solid quality exposures. So, I mean, it was at least 8 people that picked up the phone and took the information. And then, of course, I had to follow up. And I recruited some of those people, by the way. It took me a little bit of time, but I recruited them. So those are the best leads that I've found, bestleadstore.com. But they cost money, and there's a skill set there. There's a learning curve. So I'm not saying do that. These are all suggestions. But your challenge, again, if I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year, let's say, and I say I need you to come up, your challenge is to figure out a way to get 10 names and numbers every day, to expose 10 people every single day. Could you do it? You could do it. For a 6-figure income for the rest of your life, you better believe it. We could all do it. It's just a matter of deciding to do it and going after it and staying consistent. When you're running, speed is key. Sizzle calls will become your friend. I love sizzle calls. Why? Because there's exposure versus presentation. I could hand out 30 DVDs today, and none of those people got the information. Let's say none of them watched it. So even though that's an important business building activity, and we should be doing that on a regular, committed basis, you could hand out 100 today, and they may or may not watch it. Well, the reason why I love sizzle calls is because I could call you up, and in 4 minutes, you've been exposed. I let you listen to information about a membership and about our business opportunity, and it was 4 minutes. How many of those could you do in a day? You could do 10 exposures a day sitting in your underwear, right? I mean, it's incredible. And you're actually getting presentations done, but you're not having to do them. the sizzle call is doing them, which is really duplicable. It's something that everybody can do. If you're out there doing the presentation, they may or may not believe that they have that skill set and that ability. But if you're letting them just listen to a call, I mean, my gosh, we can all do that, right? That's something we all can do. It's 4 minutes. We have time to do that. We'd be willing to do that to our friends, family, neighbors, Dad could do it to a stud, so on and so forth. So let me give you we all have sizzle call numbers. Get with your platinum, get with your team leaders, but I'll give you the one that I use. It's 512-404-2330. Again, 512-404-2330. So make sure that you're utilizing speed when you're running. You want to compress time frames. We want to get as much done every day as we can. All right. Remember, we've all been in school. You remember the run walks that we used to do around the track in PE class? How long did you run and walk? You remember that? Until you were done, right? I mean, sometimes they said, hey, go walk around, do a run walk around the track. Go run around the track once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Well, how long did you do that? You ran till you were tired, and then you walked until you were rested. And then you ran until you were tired, and then you walked until you were rested. And then you ran until you were tired, and you walked until you were rested. And you did that until you were done, whatever the goal was. If it was a mile, 4 times around the track, you ran and you walked all the way around the track 4 times, and you're done, and you stopped. Well, how long should you continue your 90-day runs? You're going to run, you're going to walk. You're going to run, you're going to walk. How long are you going to keep that process going? Well, until you've reached your goal. So here's some questions. Next two, that was actually questions as in what questions do you have about tonight or last week's webinar. This is being re-recorded, so we won't be taking any questions tonight. But that is the webinar. And, the next webinar is going to be on the recruiting process and closing, how to close your people. That's what that one's going to be about. You don't want to miss it. And then the next one is going to be about the secret sauce, the last Wednesday of June, the secret sauce, how to turn 1 recruit into 5 recruits, how to turn 5 recruits into 10 recruits, and so on and so forth. All right, everybody, that's it for this webinar. Congratulations for being here. We'll be back next Wednesday night and then the following Wednesday night. Take care. Take charge. God bless. Good night.